60 years of National Health Service. What a milestone. And where do we start? I suppose a good place as any is to start here at Wrightington Hospital, the very birthplace of the most successful operation ever designed, the Charnley hip replacement. The whole story starts really way back in 1745, when one stormy night a young boy was washed ashore at Anglesey. Sounds almost like something from the Bible. Spanish speaking, he was adopted by a childless family by the name of Thomas, and he was given the name Evan Thomas. And this is really the beginning. His skills for dealing with injured animals and even with human beings was quickly recognized, and he became one of the long line of bone setters. Do you remember? In those days, farmers, bone setters, barber surgeons dealt with fractures and dislocations. Physicians, on the other hand, worked at an arm's length from the patient. When the Royal College of Physicians received the Royal Charter, physicians called themselves doctors, whereas bone setters and barber surgeons, not medically qualified but very useful in practical terms, decided to call themselves misters. Is it for that reason that this still tradition continues, where in the hospitals in UK, physicians are called doctors, whereas surgeons are called misters? That is throwback, way back to those days of barber surgeons. We continue now with Hugh Owen Thomas. Hugh Owen Thomas, one of the 5 sons of the last of the bone setters, Evan Thomas, was medically qualified and practiced with his father in Liverpool. And you can imagine the situation with bone setter and a qualified surgeon working together. It was not a very happy relationship. Hugh Owen Thomas, one of the 5 sons of Evan Thomas, was apprenticed to Evan Roberts, a physician in St Asaph Hospital, which was later called H.M. Stanley, after Henry Morton Stanley. Henry Morton Stanley, his original name was in fact John Rollins, who was an orphan in St Asaph. As a teenager, he left for America, adopted the name of the family he knew, Stanleys, called himself Henry Morton Stanley, and he was the one that went to Africa, to Congo, looking for Dr. Livingstone. And here are the famous words with Dr. Livingstone, I presume. In the next stage of the story, we have to tie together Hugh Owen Thomas, who is now practicing in Liverpool, and Robert Jones of Rhyl. Robert Jones was a prominent member of the community, a builder and an architect. He married Eleanor Humphreys, and they had 4 children. First one, Robert, Mary, Elizabeth, and Susanna. Susanna died young. Robert, which is now Robert II, was groomed to take over from his father. But he married before he was 20 and left for London, seeking his fortune in journalism. His firstborn son was also Robert. So we now have Robert I, Robert II, who is now in London, and Robert Jones III. And it is Robert Jones III that we are interested in. Meanwhile, Hugh Owen Thomas married Elizabeth Jones, the daughter of Robert Jones of Rhyl. They had no children. So when young Robert Jones III, decided to study medicine, Hugh Owen Thomas and Elizabeth, the daughter of Robert Jones of Rhyl, looked after him and they guided him through the studies of medicine and eventually through the Royal College of Surgeons. And having qualified, they worked together and in a partnership in Liverpool. In order to have some continuity of the whole story, we have to go back to the beginnings of the 18th century. Expanding trade, industrial revolution, puts on pressure on transportation of goods. Manchester needs navigable waterways. To give you an example, transportation of cotton from Liverpool to Manchester, to the cotton mills of Manchester, was more expensive than transportation of that cotton from America to Liverpool. It was therefore decided to build Manchester-Liverpool Ship Canal. The first sod was cut in 1887. 285 miles of railway were built, and 20,000 workmen and their families took part in the whole project. 7 years later, and over 3,000 accidents, many of them fatal, the canal was officially opened. Let's look what has been happening to Robert Jones III, now working in Liverpool. He was working in Southern General Hospital, Liverpool, and he was appointed as medical superintendent to the company building the canal. He had 14 surgeons. He had 3 hospitals. There were also 7 casualty stations built along the length of the canal, where casualties were treated, patched up, and then transported to the nearest hospital. It was really the organization of those services, the accident services, that was the beginning of the trauma services and casualty services, not just in the Northwest, but for the whole country. And it is the importance of those episodes and those developments in the evolution of orthopedic surgery affecting this part and beginning in this part of this country that are so important. Sir Robert Jones, the father of British orthopedics, in fact he visited Wrightington Hospital in 1932. We have his signature in the visitor's book. His collaborator was Sir Harry Platt of Manchester, working very closely together with Sir Harry Platt. Now, Sir Harry Platt's protégé was Sir John Charnley. And this is really the story here of Sir John Charnley and the evolution of his hip replacement. The most successful operation ever, which offers freedom from pain, improved activity and mobility. That has been the hallmark of this type of surgery. Its beginnings in Wrightington Hospital, and we are now into 46th year of continuing clinical success with this operation.